The Home Secretary Theresa May has announced that Justice Lowell Goddard from New Zealand will be the new chair of the inquiry into historical child abuse. Since the inquiry was announced last July, 2 chairmen have resigned. Mrs May also announced the inquiry is to be given new powers to enable it to compel people to give evidence. Sarah Corker reports.
The Home Secretary set up the Child Sex Abuse Inquiry to examine decades of allegations, but it's been beset with problems. First, former High Court Judge Baroness Butler-Sloss, then the lawyer Fiona Woolf stepped down, both over apparent conflicts of interest. And after months of uncertainty over the future of the inquiry, today Theresa May revealed the name of the next chair.
Based on the clear feedback from survivors and the assessment of the nominations against the agreed criteria, I can tell the House that I plan to appoint Justice Lowell Goddard as the new chairman of the independent panel inquiry into child sexual abuse.
The New Zealand High Court judge was chosen from a shortlist of 150 people and interviewed via video link. It's a decision welcomed today by campaigners who met at the Home Office.
I think it will enhance the credibility of the whole inquiry, the fact that the Home Secretary has chosen somebody from a different continent but who has a good knowledge of how the British system works. I think that was really, really important, and it is somebody, I believe, of high credibility.
In July last year, the government announced the independent inquiry into the way public bodies investigated and handled child sex abuse claims. Baroness Butler-Sloss was chosen as head, but just 2 days later, she faced calls to quit because her late brother, Sir Michael Havers, was Attorney General in the 1980s. She stood down the following week. In September, the Lord Mayor of London, Fiona Woolf, was named as the new chair. But in October, she too quit over her social links to ex-Home Secretary Lord Britton, whose handling of abuse claims in the 80s has been questioned. This is expected to be Britain's biggest ever public inquiry, and there's intense pressure from survivors, MPs and the public for action to find out what happened in the past and what can now be done to make sure it never happens again. So after 2 false starts, it's hoped the inquiry, which could last up to 5 years, can now get going with a chair that survivors have confidence in. Sarah Corker, BBC News.
Well, with us now is Lucy Duckworth, co-chair of the Survivors Alliance, which was set up to represent victims engaging with the National Inquiry. And Lucy, you were in that, one of the campaigners this morning. What was the mood when it was announced?
I think everyone was really delighted today. Our hard work has clearly paid off, and it's great news that the Home Secretary and indeed the Home Office are really listening to our concerns, and we now have the statutory inquiry. Key thing being that it has the power to compel witnesses, and that's what we need, because there's been many internal inquiries into institutions across the country over the last few decades, and we learnt that from that evidence does get covered up, and now we have that evidence to compel witnesses.
And you like the sound of Lowell Goddard. I don't know if you know her work personally. I mean, it seems extraordinary, doesn't it, that you've literally had to go to the other end of the earth to find somebody who can do this.
It does, and the very fact we've had to do that shows how serious this inquiry is. I think it's great. I think she's proved herself in New Zealand to really question the heart of corruption in the establishment, and the fact that she doesn't have the deep links that the English judges would have to the UK establishment is really positive for us. So we're really looking forward to working with her and ensuring that she maintains that when she comes to the UK.
When you were watching that report and we were looking at the timeline, I mean, you were sort of sighing at with incredulity that this is a January, a July. You've been through 2 judges already.
Yeah, I mean, I personally have had criticism for being a young survivor, whatever that means. But the point of that means that people have been doing this for decades, and we finally got the announcement of the inquiry in July. And you know, if we look at it, we're in January, and it's very frustrating for many survivors out there. But today we've really got the news we needed to hear, that we have a statutory inquiry, that we have transparent processes moving forward, that we have a disbandment of a panel that to all intents and purposes until now has not been fit for purpose. And now we're able to move forward from that and make sure that the new panel is appointed in a much clearer criteria. And we're really looking forward to that process happening.
Without wanting to crush hopes, this this could still be another 5 years till it comes round.
I think it could be, and I think that to even say it would be done in less time would not be doing the victims justice. I think we absolutely need to spend all the time and money we have on this.
And you pointed to that fact that witnesses are now going to be compelled to come, which is clearly key. Yeah. Are you expecting this to be highly embarrassing for the establishment? I mean,
I absolutely am, but I'm more expecting the public and the establishment to be fully shocked by the depth and the level that this is going to uncover, and it needs to be done. I mean, people have suffered in silence for far too long.
Do you ever look at Leveson and say, God, we went through all that and all those painful testimonies from parents and from victims and all the rest of it, we got the report and nothing's changed? I mean,
we're just not in a position to let that happen. I mean, for child abuse victims, for too many, it's a life or death situation. Yeah. And those of us that work with them and support them know that that's the case. And many of us have been there ourselves, and we're not in a position to let that happen. I think the Home Secretary has fully understood the gravity of the situation of this inquiry and the responsibility she holds, and we're really grateful for today's announcement and moving forward.
Lucy Duckworth, thank you. Thanks for coming in.